This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It is Monday, March 25th, which means that yesterday was Sunday, March 24th, which means that we had someone hold up a Bassmaster Classic trophy for the 54th consecutive time, and that someone would be Justin Hamner. I guess it was dominating. It was a dominating wire-to-wire victory. You know, he had Cody Huff within like a pound of him after the first day, and then he opened it up to a little under 6 pounds on the second day. Adam Rasmussen made a run at it early yesterday with a big blade, a big Colorado blade spinnerbait on shallow brush piles, but then Hamner kind of closed the door. A little bit of late night BTL last night. I've been driving back and forth from the expo and the weigh-in all week, mainly the expo. Went to the weigh-in yesterday, and Pete Robbins came on, talked a little bit about what he saw from the anglers, from the perspective. And today we're going to get Dan O'Sullivan on, potentially Mark Jeffries might jump on the show. He made an appearance on Saturday. And then Scott Palmer, who is the title sponsor of the 54th Bassmaster Classic champion, Justin Hamner. And he's going to talk a little bit about what it is like to have an angler win the Bassmaster Classic from a sponsor standpoint. He's pretty excited. He was pretty excited last night. He was so excited that as Hamner's title sponsor, he left the arena immediately after the weigh-in. And then he called me and I was like, bro, you got to go back in there to the media room because that's your guy. And there's this thing called the Champion's Toast. And he's like, what's that? And I said, it's where you toast the champion after he wins the classic. And he's like, well, I don't have credentials for that. And I'm like, well, you're his title sponsor, Scott. Like he's the first person you mentioned that Hamner mentioned on stage. I think you're invited to the Champion's Toast. Long story short, I think Scott had a pretty good night. Now he's got to get up as the owner of the Bass Tank and break down the expo. He said he's running on zero sleep. So we'll get Scott Palmer, but let's get to Dan O'Sullivan, someone else who is also running on little to no sleep. But I think after this many classics, you just kind of come to expect that. AdvancedAngler.com, you were right in the mix of it, covering the tournament, primarily on the water for your sponsors, for everything. Dano, I know you're busy. You're breaking down the camper. Thanks for jumping on BTL this morning.
It's always a pleasure, Matty. You and I both got our national starts the same place. Anytime I can join the BTL crew, I'm gonna.
We're gonna grade this classic. I'm scared to let Mark grade it, just because it's Mark, and anytime he's got a chance to weigh in, this is his wheelhouse here. But I want to do obviously the fishing, the expo, the weigh-in, and then the overall execution, kind of those four things that we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, Dano, one of the best feel-good classics that you can remember covering?
Absolutely. Before this, and Skeet was probably my favorite just because I was so connected to him and I worked with him for so long, and he's still a really good friend. I mean, we talk frequently, but to be at that moment in there with him, you know, working for Mark at the time at Bass Zone, and Mark saying go do it, was really, really cool. And it was new, you know, it was my second classic that I'd been at, and to see Skeet's emotion was amazing. But this one, I think people have heard some of it. Justin, like so many when you fish the opens and the EQs, he had like 8 days to make his deposits. and maybe less, I think. But it was he had to make a decision really quickly. And I think he spent about a week or so looking for a boat because he had I think it was a 2017 Triton that was 300 some odd hours on the engine. And he called us at Bucks Island. You know, I helped Bucks Island with the marketing and the fishing promotions over there. And he called me. Someone told him to give me a call, and we tried to put together a deal that would allow him to trade in his boat, which Bucks was going to go a little. We don't normally trade in something with as many hours as he had on it, but we were going to try to help him. And we did our trade check, and the stringers were cracked from the transom. They were loose. And so Justin's now kind of stuck. He said, what do we do? We got it over to Marine Pro Service, which is the people at Falcon Boats, for him. And he worked with somebody to help him get a boat. We gave him a little bit of a discount on a boat to be able to put him in it. He got a Falcon, was able to sell that next Falcon, move into the new Falcon the second year. By year 3, after his 4th place at Hartwell, Falcon took him on national staff, and he's been with them his whole career now. Fell in love with his first boat, but he that's just kind of a story. But the funny thing is that, you know, you can't have 2 boat loan payments. It's not the way it works in the world. So we ended up getting the boat fixed for him. Everybody kind of worked for him to get it done as efficiently as we could. So that, and it was an insurance job because he'd hit something.
Shocker.
Yeah. But he hit something, and you could see the big knock on the bottom of the hull, and tell, then pushes the transom and everything. Yep. So we got it covered under insurance. But then that was the year that I was doing camera boat work for Craig Lamb at Gunnersville in preview. And so it's May, and this all happened, you know, his Triton's been getting fixed and on our lot as a consignment boat 5 months, and he's been making payments on it while he's got this other boat. And while we were up there at Gunnersville, the phone rings and they got a buyer, and I was able to call his family and get the paperwork and everything brought together. So before that tournament was over, he'd gotten himself a $600 a month raise by not having to make a boat payment again. And the relief in his voice was amazing. And then you hear stuff, just the genuineness of the way he dealt with the week. And I asked him a question in the press conference. I said, Justin, I met you, 4.5 years ago, 8 days to make the deposits, and you did, and here you are now. What does that person feel like? And he said, he says, I don't think anybody's ever heard this story before. I don't think I've ever shared it. He said, but he said, James River tournament, I missed the cut, and I'm trying to figure out how to get myself home. And I got enough money pulled together to get gas home, but I had to dig under my truck seats to find change to buy a cheeseburger to get home. And of course he's weeping. The whole room is starting to cry. And he goes, and I just won the Classic. And then just dry eye, not a dry eye anywhere. I don't think I've seen anybody handle this way. This is my 17th, Matt. You've been doing this just as long. It's as genuine as I've ever seen it, but not that anybody's ever been disingenuine about it, but just as most genuine and transparent. And I just don't know if I've ever seen anybody handle it like this. I feel like in other sports where we may, you don't, it's not a household name who wins like a Brickyard 500 or a Masters or something like that, and you hear all of the other competitors that you can tell are genuinely happy for the guy and be like, man, this win means a lot for him.
That's what we have with the Bassmaster Classic this year. You know, had a Brandon Polinick one, it would have been an amazing story because Polinick's looking for his first classic. It would have been back on Grand, something like that. But it would have been like a household name, and that would have been the story. Polinick finally gets his classic. I think there's a lot of the fishing world that is going to get to know Justin Hamner through this classic win that maybe had just been introduced to him due to his hot start in the 2024 season, or just knew who he was based on his close call at Hartwell a couple years ago on that final day in the classic.
Yeah, but and I do see this stuff. You know, you see posts of people. I don't know who half these guys are. Well, you're not paying attention. Again, take all the sonar talk, take all the other stuff, take all that stuff and put it. The bottom line is people need to find fish, catch fish, and cash checks, win tournaments. That's what bass fishing is. More importantly, they have to promote their sponsors. And these guys do as good as anybody has ever done, with the exception of a few that have just been, you know, extraordinary over the years at doing that stuff. But these guys are dang good. And if you're not paying attention, is the reason you don't know, because they're doing plenty. Hamner is here's another, this is a Patrick Walters thing. You know, him and Patrick are travel buddies, and they're great friends. Patrick got up yesterday morning to drive Justin to the ramp.
Oh, no kidding.
From Tulsa so that Justin could sleep.
Yeah, that's 91 miles.
Yeah. And I grabbed Patrick last night at the Toast, and I said, I want you to know something. I know what you did. It's class. He goes, well, he's my boy. I said, yeah, but dude, I know you want this trophy as much as anything. Class, and I respect it.
You had a chance to catch up with Justin Hamner for Advanced Angler and put that out on the Advanced Angler both website and YouTube channel. It's just a little bit of a 1-minute deal in the late night BTL last night. We played it, but I'm going to cue it up and we're going to just get kind of the look at behind the scenes there with Justin Hamner winning the Bassmaster Classic. Kind of a first look from Dano and the folks at Advanced Angler. So here we go.
Classic champion. What's it feel like?
I still don't know yet. Yeah, so it's freaking awesome though. What I'm feeling right now is pretty dang good.
Your jerkbait pattern this week, was it literally just look and see and throw? Is that what you were doing, or did you have something that was?
It was more of throw and see what fish or how those fish reacted to my bait, because there's so many like different types of fish in this lake that. I mean, I literally just have to throw my bait out there, and then if I see something following it, it was a bass.
So you had a bunch of support from them, and you seem like freer than I've ever seen you before. I've known you now a little while. What was it? That just one or two deals that came together, or what was it?
It was just about putting something in my hand that I was confident in, and just not even worrying about it.
All right, well, we'll talk to you again later, brother. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, there's Justin Hamner talking about his win. So obviously a jerkbait played big in this. Someone brought this up last night and I didn't have a chance to mention it with Pete, but is especially with the time of the classic, you know, in 2006, Luke Clausen's classic, I believe it was 2006 when it switched to the spring, is the jerkbait. I mean, the jerkbait has to be the number one Bassmaster Classic bait over the past decade. You look at what Hank Cherry has done with it. You look at what Hamner just did with it. There's been a lot of classics won and contended for on a jerkbait over the past 10 years.
Yeah, even think about Hank when he was making that run at Hartwell when Cliff won. That was a jerkbait. You know, that prompted his whole Livingston thing, which prompted his whole Berkeley Stunna, and now he's kind of free agenting. But yeah, that was, I mean, it's been around that long in the springtime, and it's a killer springtime bait. It's great other times, but Yeah, it certainly is. And watching Justin was probably one of the slower jerkbait cadences I've seen. Out in the West, they call them rip baits.
Mm-hmm.
So you can understand why they call them that. You're used to seeing rod tips going whack, whack.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the best jerkbait fishermen in the business with McClelland and Hank, and Mark Menendez is no jerkbait slouch himself.
Yeah,
Kevin,
you
of
got to throw
course,
KVD in there.
and Kevin, of course. Dude, Skeet's great with them too.
Yep.
And we just watched pretty good performance. And it's funny, talk about genuine, that little interview. Bass made sure, that it's a quick thing, and the leagues do as good as they can to take care of the independent media, but they gave us okay, you can get 3 little interviews. We'll give you a minute and a half a piece. So I couldn't go as in depth with Justin as I wanted to, but I thank him for giving us that much time. But talk about genuine. I'm asking him about these deals that helped him feel free, and he just goes, I just put the jerkbait in my hand and went to work. He's so genuine. He couldn't think past. Sorry, it was fun.
No, it is. So one of the unique things about the Classic is the winning bait. So Hamner won on a deep diving jerk bait. Did not mention the name brand of it. I will say this: I have fished with Justin Hamner in his element with a jerk bait when this bite is going, and he is a master at this, and there is a reason why he won with the jerk bait and not other anglers who were also throwing a jerk bait trying to do the same thing that he did. You look in his box, and I know this is a slippery slope, right? Because in a perfect world, he's able to hold up the Yozuri jerk bait that he caught all 15 fish on and say, this is it. Yeah. But the reality is all jerk baits are different. They have different characteristics. They have different qualities. What one excels at, another one might be weak at, and what one is weak at, another one might excel at. When I was with him, he did throw a Yozuri, but then he said, well, look what this one does, and look what this one does, and look what this one does. And by the end of the couple of days that we had spent together, I think he had 6 or 7 different brands. Some of them were straight out of the pack. Some had lead on the hooks. Some had lead on the bellies. Some he had drilled it. Some were weighted. Some he threw on 8-pound tests. Some he threw on 14-pound tests. Some sank. Some float. It's not just take a dang bait out of the package and it's a one. The way he fishes his jerk baits is the same way, and I'm not comparing him in this realm at all, but the same way where if you look at a David Fritz crankbait box or a KVD lipless box or anything, there are so many small nuances to what he's doing that I don't think a lot of people understand how minute it is and how he's able to make the fish react to whatever bait he's throwing. Well,
and you have to, he's young enough in this career that he hasn't had the advantages of the Kevins, the Skeets, the Ishes, the people like that people say, okay, what do you need? What do we need it to do? Kevin's got a jerkbait series that's got 2-hook version, 3-hook version, deep dive version, multiple,
Kevin can just say, hey, we need this. And they put their team on it and say, all right, get whatever Kevin wants.
Right. And that comes with time. So I know Justin well. I've seen, like you said, I haven't seen the jerkbait box, but I've seen what he has on the deck. And he does have multiple brands up there, and he does try to throw his sponsor stuff, but if the fish don't respond, ultimately their job is to win. And if he wasn't catching all 15 of his fish on the Yozuri jerkbait, he was using Yozuri's line.
Yep.
He's doing his job for his partners, and part of doing his job for his partners is to not promote something else. The thing that he did that was the most professional thing that he did, that he could do, was to just say, I'd rather not say.
Yeah, that was well played. All right, here's the other thing. I will talk about this, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back with one more segment, and I'll let you get going. I know you're headed back to Alabama for a rare break before the next swing kicks off. You good with that, Dana?
Yeah.
All right. So this is what shocked me. I know Grant not as well as I used to, but it surprised me that no one made a run at this thing on the final day. Like I said, I think we had 4 20-pound bags. The biggest move would have probably had to have been what Jason Christie did on day 2 with his 18-pound bag, what Brandon Card did. But because of their day 1 performances, they were still way behind the 8 ball. There was not a 20-pound bag in sight in the final 25 anglers, the top 25 guys after the 2 days. And in the top 5, Rasmussen's 18.5 was the biggest bag. It surprised me that there wasn't an Edwin type moment in this where someone from the back caught lightning in a bottle and made a run at this thing. Did that surprise you?
You have no idea how close it was to happening.
Really?
Yeah, Corey Johnston weighed his 18 plus. He had it on for more than a minute. It sawed him through 2 brush piles, a dock cable, and finally a dock crossbeam, and broke him off. He was that close to a 27, 28-pound bag, and he had it on for more than a minute. So
a 27-pound bag, he still doesn't win.
I'm just saying to make you said make a run at it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair.
But remember, when I'm interviewing him backstage, Bass Track says Justin has 13-12.
Mm-hmm.
So, Corey's walking backstage going, "Oh my gosh!" No, he's a hockey player. He's like, whatever, dude, it's over. But, yeah, if I could have landed that one, he goes, I would have been close. It would have been close. But he told the story to me and a couple other guys, and it was close. I mean, but that's what wins these tournaments. If Randall Tharp doesn't break off that real big one at the final day at Gunnersville, lose that fish, he wins the 14 Classic instead of Randy. And
this Classic seems, I don't think Rasmussen had anything that he's going to lose sleep over. He went 19-5, 17-10, 18-5. I think he can sleep at night knowing that Hamner beat him, and he made some really good adjustments, especially on that last day, going to that spinnerbait on the shallow, and it just wasn't meant to be. I think Cody Huff could say the same thing. He had the 20 up shallow. I think he was very happy with how he was able to adjust and refine fish in a totally different pattern and part of the lake after his water temperature dropped 8 degrees and finished 3rd.
Yeah.
I think you could say the same for Shakurit. Lee Livesey flipping behind the docks. I mean, he could have had some moments that were heartbreakers, and it didn't appear that he did to round out the top 5. And then you have Corey Johnson, and then Hank's bite seemed to just kind of evaporate there on the final day after he was probably catching the most 3+ pounders on the first couple days of competition. I think that everybody in this Classic can lay their head on the pillow at night and say it wasn't meant to be. There's no haunting stories from the 2024 Bassmaster Classic.
No, there isn't. I think you're right. There was not a runaway pattern. Jason was running away in 16 and Edwin catches 29 to run away with it. But there wasn't a runaway pattern. The weather kept things at bay.
Mm-hmm.
Corey said he caught a couple of bedfish yesterday afternoon, though.
Did he saw with his eyeballs?
Saw them with his eyes.
No way.
Sight fish for him, yeah.
So we had whopper plopper fish, Zara spook fish, sight fish, foot deep fish, shallow brush fish, deep bait fish, 25-pound test, 6-pound test, live scope only, live scope units not even on, and everywhere in between in this deal.
100%.
All right, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, I want to get a grade from Dano on what he thought, his final Classic thoughts. We'll try to get Mark Jeffries on too. We might overlap you guys a little just so it's kind of like back in the day, when we're covering all the stuff. But it's BTL on a Monday, post-Classic. Also, I do want to mention the BTL merchandise store is now open. Link in the description. in the YouTube story bio, also on the Shop BTL tab on BASSZone.com. Now, it's only open for 14 days. I'm financially responsible on this. I can't be sitting here with boxes of clothes, so it opens for 14 days. We went higher end stuff, heavy spun cotton on the hoodies, no stretch necks, good cuffs on the t-shirts. All of Frank Scalish's signature series stuff is up there. We'll talk more about it after we're done with the classic, but been working on this stuff for a long time. New revamped BTL logo. So for 14 days, if you are wanting to get some BTL merchandise, shop BTL tab on BASSZone.com. We will be back. More classic coverage with Dan O'Sullivan from Advanced Angler. Hopefully a cameo appearance as well. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Gamakatsu, the innovation leader in fish hooks, is launching Nano Alpha technology in 2024. Nano Alpha is a new finish available on Gamakatsu's most popular hook styles. It delivers 2 times slicker performance, 4 times better corrosion resistance. Nano Alpha technology makes the world's greatest fish hooks even better in 2024 to help anglers catch more fish.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top 100, Strike King.
Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Monday post-classic. You know, we were talking about apparel before I went to the break with the BTL store now open for the next 14 days. Shop BTL tab on BASSZone.com or click on the link in the YouTube description. But there was also some other apparel. Now, I have never waited in line to get an autograph at the Bassmaster Classic before, and there was one angler that I got in line. I brought a Sharpie, and I had Dave Rush from Outdoor Brands team and Best on Tour weekly newsletter. Subscribe to bestontour.net. Mark would be proud of all these drops here. That I had go at 10 o'clock on Thursday. There was a limited number of these hats, and that is the legendary Rick Clunn. If you follow fishing at all, you know he's celebrating 50 years of fishing. Oh, I've already put it up here just next to the apple that one of the listeners sent for the education part of Entertain, Educate, and Engage. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Whoa, and I dropped Daryl Gleason's Ocean Pony hat there, but it's okay. So this is the 50 years of fishing. Here's the Rico, Rick Clunn, signed Rico. That's what he won the U.S. Open on. And then the most Clunn thing ever, the Rick Clunn hat. I waited in line for 20 minutes. I got up there. He looked at me, and he goes, "You been playing any poker?" And I said, yes. And I've been playing a couple house games and I've got some really bad beats. And he goes, that's what happens in house games. And then he signed it. And this is going in studio. This is the Rick Clunn limited edition hat. And then he signed it. Really cool to see Rick there. Really cool to see how many fans, how many anglers, how many people were there celebrating Rick Clunn's 50 years. I don't know how many more years Rick is going to do this. He said he doesn't believe in retirement. He's never going to retire. But dang, 50 years, cool. That's one of the most cherished things I got. And like I said, I went in there and spent $30 on the hat, waited in line and had Rick sign it. And it was probably the coolest thing that I experienced at the Bassmaster Classic. All right, we are going to bring Dano back in, and then we'll just make it like an old school party. And,
my gosh.
And we'll bring Mark Jeffries, 17 years of BTL. Dude, your first classic was my first classic, 1998, and I think there might have been one that you didn't attend, but by God, you attended this one, Mark, on Saturday at the Pradco booth with Uncle Frank. Was it cool to see the classic back in Tulsa and to be there?
Yeah, it was. And it was neat to see a few people that I hadn't seen for quite some time. And I didn't get a chance to see Dano. Dano was working. But I brought my youngest son, AJ, up. He'd never seen anything like that before. And he got to experience the Outdoor Expo just for a few minutes. We walked around. We looked at a bunch of stuff. We saw some things that I hadn't seen before. Saw some pricing that I hadn't seen before.
It took 37 seconds for the first gripe, Dano. All right, this is vintage BTL. Have at it, Mark. Just dig right into it. Dig into the industry, the pricing, the parking cost.
No, actually, I parked about a half a mile away, and I paid nothing to park. But it did bring back some memories from New Orleans, where when we went to check out, parking was like $40 a night.
Dude, the worst thing anybody's discovered at the Classic was in Houston, when after loading in and loading out, they had to use Union, and they found out that it was by weight.
Oh yeah.
There was a tackle booth. What was it, like 10 grand or something in move-in fees?
Yeah.
That's the most expensive one I've heard.
Crazy. But no, Matt, it was really neat to see what you and especially Frank, the line to get Frank's signature was amazing. And what you have continued and what you and Frank are doing with Dave Ford, everything else you got going on, it was very apparent that you guys are doing the right thing and things are going magnificent for you and Frank and what you're doing with the show. So it was cool to see some people. And Dano, what do you think the number one question that was asked to me for the few people that recognized me? What do you think the number one question was?
Are you coming back?
No.
Do you wait.
Can you
do you like live scope?
No. Can you smell or taste anything?
Oh, geez.
That's a
because
hard
the whole
no, right?
number 7 thing was based upon after I had my accident.
Yep.
Matt made this statement, I thought you were going to come back and say that your favorite color was 7 or something like that. And that created the whole thing. So for a limited number of people that knew the complete story on that, they were asking me if I still had smell or taste.
All right, your thoughts on that? Yeah, well, that's a no.
No.
Still can't.
No.
Yeah.
But like I pointed out to several people, you never smell or tasted your food for the first 50 years that you had smell or taste, so it's not a big loss.
Yeah, this is true.
You went 3 years and all you ate were stacks of hamburger patties with no bun or anything, just straight hamburger patties. And then every time you would have a mouthful of I can't say that. Anytime you'd have a mouthful of ground hamburger patty. Almost said meat. You would say, God, I wish I could start this sentence over. You would just say, it's filler. It's filler.
It's just filler.
I'm still traumatized for that. All right, we got to grade some stuff here. And then we'll get to Scott Palmer from the Bass Tank. Scott's on zero sleep. He just had his sponsored Egler Justin Hamner win the Classic. So this is the Mark and Dano portion of the show. I am going to say something about the Classic, and then you guys both give it a grade.
Hang on. Time out. All right, because I want to do this, but I want to say this, Matt. I have to say this because I thought about this on the way home. I thought about it on the way to the office today. Dude, all this talk and discussion about forward-facing sonar.
Oh my gosh.
No, hang on. Hear me
I'm
out.
hanging.
Because I want your take and Dano.
This is what I'll do. I'll give you the big screen. You got the floor, Mark.
Okay, hear me out on this. This is a perfect opportunity for Bass to take advantage. You know what they could do? I've been ranting and raving for all those years that I was on about Bass needs to do this. Now is the perfect time to come out with the senior tour. 50 and over. Let the guys do what has built this sport up. You give the fans a little taste of what the game used to be like. You limit the number of electronics. You don't let them use forward-facing sonar. You let the seniors go out and battle the way that this game was played for so many years. Can you imagine having a field of, I don't know what the right number is, maybe 40, maybe 50, whatever that number is, and you don't have, you have maybe 4 or 5 events during the year, but now people are going to get a taste of what true fishing was like in the past, but they don't have to take away from what the game has drastically changed from the forward-facing sonar. It is a huge, huge opportunity for Bass to give the fans what they want, to keep the forward-facing sonar thing going, and give people like myself that grew up on this game, guys throwing a jig, a spinnerbait, a topwater, a crankbait. You get to see them compete without all the new stuff going on, and I think fans would be thrilled to see that with some of the guys that are older than 50. What do you think, Dano?
I agree with you. I like the idea of the seniors tour. You got a golf background, you got a bowling, history. Both of them have that kind of deal. And I think that would be a really good thing to do, even if it wasn't a, beat forward-facing sonar deal, meaning if that wasn't the topic of the day, that doesn't even have to be a part of it. There's people out there like Bill Dance and Roland Martin. And, think about the guys that are set to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, Mark. They're guys that you got started with, that you helped me get started with. I'd love to see it. You fish from 9 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a lunch break in the middle of it if they want it. Something that just makes it so that they can do what they need to do. I have no problem with it. I think it's a good idea. The only thing I'll bring in on forward-facing sonar is this. If there was no such thing as technology in this sport, Mark Jeffries doesn't teach people how to do live fishing from the screen. We'd all had to just do writing. I'd still only be writing. There'd be no video.
Oh yeah. Tim Tucker back in the day had to be like, this dang internet, anybody can do it. Look, this guy works at freaking UPS and is a finance major, and he thinks he can cover this. I freaking put the work in. It needs to be in Bassmaster magazine for it to be legit. Anybody can do this thing.
Matt, I'm telling you, this solves this disconnect that's taking place between old school and new school. Let new school be new school. Let those guys demonstrate how difficult and how much practice it takes to do the forward-facing sonar. But you know what? I still want to see guys out there throwing a crankbait, flipping a jig, throwing a spinnerbait.
That legitimately almost won the Classic this year, Mark.
I know.
Single Colorado blade spinnerbait flipping behind docks. So, it's still there. It's still there.
So, what do you think, Matt? Am I off my rocker?
No. It's a very valid point. Can we? It's a very valid point. And for those of you who missed the nostalgia, this timestamp is 40 minutes and 16 seconds in. So if you go back to 34:18 and you want to play that on loop, you can get the vintage Mark Jeffries right there.
I love it.
And you're drinking energy drinks now? That's not a good combo.
Celsius.
No,
I know
Celsius,
that can.
Okay. Celsius.
All right. Like I said, we are going to get to Scott Palmer. He's busy. He's taking time out of his day, but I do want to get you guys just a quick and dirty grading on what it is. You both took in the Classic from different. You both have been, there's probably 35 Classics, 40 Classics between you two. Start with Dano and then we'll go to Mark. All right. Grade the Expo, Dano.
Attendance, give it a B+. It was busy Saturday and Sunday especially. Booths, good quality booths, lacking a Berkeley booth. Give it a B.
Mark.
I'd say A-, B+ for what Dano said. I think that if you're a first-time attendee like AJ was, he got a lot out of it. But I think that if you're one of those people that went to the previous classics, outdoor expos that was at Tulsa, Oklahoma, that you got a lot out of it. I'm just intrigued by people watching and seeing some of the reaction that when they walked up to that boat and they saw that show special right there, to see their facial and body language when they're checking that out was amazing.
Yeah.
The actual fishing on Grand Lake, Dano.
You don't mean the tournament itself. You mean the actual fishing.
Yes. So there's going to be an overall grade too that is going to.
I just wanted to make sure that I think the fishing was probably
the fishing and the coverage of the fishing, like everything that happened at the lake, is what this grade is.
I'd say a B- still. The fishing wasn't its best. The coverage, you're doing the best you can. I mean, my gosh, those guys had lumps to go through all that whole week. It was windy. Makes a tough coverage. So the actual fishing B-, but the coverage from Bass B+.
Mark.
Fishing, it was almost an A. All right. It was teetering back and forth. And the reason is I agree with Dano. I think they did a really good job of covering the guys they had cameras with. And this is kind of old school because they've been doing this for a while. Me personally, the coolest thing to see was where the guys were on all the different parts of the lake. Yeah. And then watching what they're doing in those parts of the lake, because I'm so familiar with Grand Lake. That was really cool. And then obviously the thing that they've implemented this year, showing the screen when guys were trying to do the forward-facing sonar thing. I think that adds a lot to the boredom and beigeness of forward-facing sonar. But I think they did a great job.
And I bring up mine was the quality of fishing is the grade, which is the lake, but the tournament itself was an A.
Yeah,
it was a great tournament, competition, everything. So,
weigh in, Dano.
I'm still surprised by days 1 and 2. There seems to be some holes in the stands. Come to find out, they had a kind of a club section that they called it that stayed empty for basically the first 2 days of the tournament. And that was on the right-hand side of the stage. If you walk in from where we came into, well, stage left is what it is. That surprises me. Final day is always electric. I don't care what it is, where you're at, it's electric. There's a bunch of noise. There's a bunch of crowd. There's, lights, cameras, action. I'd say A- total for the weigh-ins.
Mark, you did not attend any of the weigh-ins. Did you were able to watch it?
Online I did.
Okay.
It was kind of a different attack mode of how they did the Super 6 on the final day.
I liked it. I loved it. I thought Mercer's deal to have that in his head, to have those guys where they went behind with all 6. I thought it took an incredible amount of talent and knowledge for Mercer to do that live. It was new. It was something that I hadn't seen. You got a behind the stage look, and then they came out on it out of the entire final day weigh-in. I thought that was the coolest part of it, and I thought Mercer absolutely knocked that out of the park, and whoever came up with that concept, it was awesome.
I agree. It made me flashback, and Dano, I don't know, were you at the Pittsburgh Classic?
Nope, that was 3 years before I started working with you.
Okay, were you there, Matt? I don't think you were, or were you?
No, I was a freshman at OU.
Okay. The Pittsburgh Classic Super 6 was one of the absolute best. The fishing was horrible, but the hype that they did for those final 6 guys was probably the best Super 6 in the history of the Classic. But I will give whoever came up with that idea props. You were dead on, Matt. I thought it was cool the way they did that. The other thing I'll bring up is they've been doing it for 50 plus years. They have to come up with something that doesn't lead to all the dead time.
Yes.
Or spill moments, because it's just way too long.
Yep. This has been we'll just do this. Like I said, Scott, shake your head if you're good. Hang it out back. Okay, I just want to make sure, because he's got, like I said, a Title Angler sponsor, a bass tank booth to break down, and it looks like he's in a hotel room. So he's got a lot of things on his plate right now, so I don't want him sitting here while his world crumbles around him. But this was my biggest pet peeve. And I had I watched it from the stands like I always do, top row. And there were some kids behind us because they had the Mercury Thunder sticks, and their dad said, if you're going to use those, you need to go to the top and never come down. So they went to the top and never came down. But we were at the top, and I was watching it. It was her first, Courtney's very first weigh-in ever. Waited till the final day, and she was watching it. And the time between when they announced that Hamner wins and then when the classic handoff happens and the actual confetti happens, there's like a 5-minute space of real anticlimactic dead time. And it's like that every single year. It needs to be bam, 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 bam. Chaos as soon as Hamner wins. Chaos. TNT fireworks. Confetti. Gussie's right there, handed it off. Music. DJ, like, just know, like, oh boy, that's awesome. I can't believe I won. And then go down and lift it. And then it needs to bam, 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 bam. That's like the moment. That is the moment of the entire year out of 365 days. It is a 30-second moment that you have that initial reaction, and whoever wins it needs to be thrust into that spotlight, and the chaos ensues, and it never stops. And the lap, because listen, during that dead time, people start filing out. People file out of the arena during this guy's biggest time of the year. The true fans stay and watch, but 80% of the guys are headed to the exits. Make it so exciting that everybody who's standing when the thing goes off and he wins stands and watches it for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I give Panger the A+ grade for the best Jeffries impersonation I've seen in a while.
But that's true. Is that not true though? Is that not true, Dano?
Yeah. Pace is better, but you also have to understand something this year. Don Day retired. That's a new DJ. They were trying a new thing out. That's always been a little slow. I think what they're trying to do is give the guy a chance to have some emotion develop and recognize what's happened right then. But I could see where
want the emotion to develop. I want him to be in shock while it looks like the 4th of July around him.
Well, I understand. And I could see some pace being worked on. Yeah. But the delays were, there's a bunch of new stuff going on there. Probably like it to be smoothed out a little bit before the biggest show in the game, but there was stuff going on.
It is live. There's a lot of moving parts on that. I'm not saying that I did not enjoy the weigh-in or it was not well executed. I still
have a hope.
Yes, there's just a couple little things that I'm like, dude, this could anyway.
But hey, Matt, real quick. We've had this question before, and I don't think we ever really came to a conclusion, but I just want your thoughts real quick because I know you're crunched for time. Should they shut down Bass Track at noon?
No.
All day?
No, you don't even know what they have. Like Rasmussen said he had 16. He came in with 18. Hamner said he had 13. He came in with 15. Like there's so much. Everything is information and technology this day. Why would you want to limit that? Well, the only reason you're saying, imagine if it's close. Imagine how much closer the weigh-in is if you have an unofficial weight where it's virtually tied. It's been like that the last couple years.
Yeah. No, I agreed. I just wonder if some people don't go to the weigh-in if it's a blowout.
No, I think some people don't go to weigh-in because they have social anxiety with crowds, because they've been to a bunch of weigh-ins, because it's a pain in the ass to park, because they know it's going to be 4 hours long, because they have other stuff going on in their life.
And there's not enough parking downtown, and it makes it difficult. Yes.
Yeah. Great point. Good point, you guys.
I give the overall grade of the Classic an A this year. I didn't hear attendance numbers. And Mark, you and I have gone over attendance in the past. You know, they actually create more venues for this thing every year, because you've got the pre-show, you know, the kickoff on Thursday, and then you've got now a tailgate that they're taking attendance at. You got the takeoffs and the weigh-ins and the expo. So the attendance number is going to get higher and higher just as you create more venues for people to go to. But I just, I didn't hear a number, but it was busy. It was busy. And yeah. I think they managed it pretty well with the conditions that they had and everything else going on.
Mark, your overall grade.
Oh, it was an A. I was moving, so I was capturing bits and pieces while I'd take a break. I'd check out the live coverage. I'd check out a little bit of the weigh-ins, and then I watched the Super 6 yesterday. But, it's interesting to see where they were many years ago and where they are now. Mm-hmm. And even though the technology has advanced, but the coverage seems to be at the point where they kind of reached that peak, and it's really, really, really good. And I don't know if we're ever going to see, I've said for years, the next step in this live coverage, be it the Classic or the Elite Series, is for the fans to be able to watch whatever angler they want by having the technology and in every single boat to where you have a greater number. Believe me, the technology is much cheaper. It's very reasonable. The cellular technology is vastly increased over the past 5 years. So I think you're going to see, especially during the Classic, for the 25 guys or whatever the number is, I think on the final day, you're going to be able to tune in and watch whatever angler that you want to watch on the final day.
And then we just get Matt Herron to donate 25 Tato poles for everybody to be able to, have their cameras up on the middle of the boat so that everybody can watch that, Of course, Matt would love to do that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the other thing for me was just being in Oklahoma, where, as I said to Christina, to the theme song of Cheers, that sometimes it's fun to go where everybody loves your team. So it was great to be in Soonerland at another Classic. It was awesome.
Hey, do you need to go, Matt? Do I need to go?
No, we'll do whatever you want. I mean, heck, we could just bring Scott in. Let's just bring Scott into the whole thing since he's been sitting behind there. He's just sitting there with the Classic winning champ. You look at 107 photos of Justin Hamner, and 106 of them have the bass tank right down the side. And then he was on the trolling motor all day in the bass tank. And then he's holding up the trophy in the bass tank. And then can I show this picture that I got from you last night, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to show this picture.
Which one is it? I'm worried, but yeah.
I'm showing them all. So Scott, okay, so explain. Okay, as long as anybody who has to go can go, but we'll just roll with it like this for as long, because there's some dang good stories here from behind the scenes of the Classic. So Scott, explain why did you leave the arena as soon as Hamner won, and then I'll kind of navigate this as it goes, because you guys haven't heard this. It's a pretty good story. So I get a text. You said I had to leave. Yeah. I'm like.
Okay, so I was out of my element. Like you talk about social anxiety. I am not one for crowds. I am a hermit. I would live in the woods behind a 100-foot wall if I could. And so that's not me. And then I'm not really, true media, if you will. So I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here, but midday it hit me. Justin's a friend of mine. Let me start there. Justin's a friend of mine. Yes, I do sponsor him, but he's a friend of mine. And so when a friend of yours is in that position, because this is the Catalina wine mixer, right, of our sport. And I was getting the jitters. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was getting nervous. And so I'm sitting down there in the media area, outside the stage. And I told Matt, I said, Matt, I may cry if he wins this. Like, I was getting emotional for him. Forget about anything it meant for potentially us as a business, but for him, I was like, dude, I'm going to cry. And so it gets done, and, he does his lap, and I finally got to him. I hugged him, like we were just fist pumping. And I had a friend of mine send me a video of the weigh-in, and I'm actually like right below. And I'm pretty sure you saw me jump up because, fist bump exciting when he hit it, when it was official. And so it gets done. I'm down there. I'm basically rolling the confetti as well. I'm as excited as he was. And then it's just like, do you got to go? And Matt, you and I had talked about trying to maybe do something last night. And I'm just like, oh, and that all that emotion was crashing down. And I just did what I do. Boom, I'm out. I'm gone. And I get to my truck. I left the BOK, walked all the way to my truck.
As his title sponsor, while he's still in the arena.
Yeah, he's going down the press, and I've got the pass to be there with him, and I just bail. And I get to my truck, and Matt's like, "What are you doing? You've got to go back." And I'm like, "You're right, I do." And so I go back, and I walked completely around the BOK. They had locked everything. And I'm like, "Cool, all right." There was one security guard coming out. And I said, "Man, is there any chance you'll let me back in?" I said, "I've got the pass." And he saw my shirt and goes, "Your guy just won, didn't he?" I said, "Yeah." And I made the mistake of stepping out to make a phone call, and I'm locked out. He goes, "Yeah, you can get back in." So whoever that security guard is, man, thank you. So then I go down there and I'm piddling my way. You guys better be okay. Just media, where you're supposed to go. And I'm lost. I can't find who I'm trying to talk to get there. They've got him hemmed up. I finally just wandered around. I just happened to run into the press room, and by that time he was pretty well done. I got to hang out with his parents to talk to him, and then I got to finally see Justin again after he had been crowned and everything was coming down. And you want to talk about a guy who was shell shocked. I mean, you could see it like, this is exciting, but at the same time he kept looking at that trophy like, am I really holding this in disbelief? And yeah. So, and for me as well, Matt, you show your pictures.
Okay, I was trying to explain why you needed to be at the Champions Toast as his title sponsor. And I was like, talk to Mandy from Bass. She knows everything. She'll hook you up. And you're like, Mandy's not here. Oh, you did end up finding her?
I found her. So.
Was I not right, though? Everybody from Bass knows what they're talking about. They're extremely helpful, and they'll get you where you need to be when you need to be.
And that's exactly right. I will say that. Like, I finally just found someone, and it said Bassmaster on. I said, hey, this is who I'm looking for. And they're like, oh, this is who you need to go see. And she's got maroon hair. Yeah. And I'm like,
as someone who also suffers from severe social anxiety at times, you have to have a couple people that you can ask the dumb questions to make you feel. Dano's been that person. I'm not sure if Mark hurts or helps that social anxiety with me back in the day, but Mandy is my person there with Bass. So anyway,
the nature boy,
I wanted to check in with you, and I wanted to make sure that like you were headed to the Champions Toast. And I said, are you all good? And let's see, this is the photo that I received.
Yeah, he's good.
He's good.
So
is that you in the back of a van holding the Bassmaster Classic trophy, Scott?
It absolutely is. So they're going to ferry him over to the Champions Toast, right? And he's got his family, he's got his friends, and they're going to minivan. And I look at this, I'm like, there are too many people, and that's fine. I'm like, guys, I'll hoof it. This is for you. I'll hoof it. No big deal. And they open the back hatch and they set the trophy there. I'm like, you can't let that ride like that. And I just hopped in and just put my legs around it. And there's a video I will send you later, Matt, because Justin said, give me your phone. And yeah. And so this is me literally taking a selfie, just absolutely curled up. So luckily I don't have aspirations to, hoist that trophy on stage.
You had no problem touching it.
I had no problem touching it whatsoever. So but yeah, this grin has not left my face. I'm still running on pure adrenaline. It was probably 3:00 when I got home. No, it may have been earlier. I don't know. Showered, tried to sleep. I have not been asleep. I got up at 2:30 yesterday to go see Justin off on day 3. Drove to Grand Lake, and I'm running on about fumes. I mean, 30 minutes of sleep at best. At some point today, I am going to crash. I know, but we're going to ride this pony as long as we can.
Mark, Dano, anything else you want to add in here? Are you good for like 10 more minutes to talk a little bit about what it means sponsor wise and what we might have on BTL in the future with
absolutely.
Justin Hamler, the 2024 Bassmaster Classic champion? Anything else, Dano, Mark, before I let you guys go?
Just to give you guys props for what you've created here. Matt, like I told you, I got a message from somebody. Hey, I liked your appearance on just like 2 weeks ago. I loved your appearance on BTL in October. I'm like, okay, thank you. But somebody stopped me on the show floor on Friday. Hey, I saw you on BTL last night. And the fact that you can have an instant impact. And Mark, you created this thing. I mean, wide open, all the different parts. Credit to you, Matt. Credit to you for taking Mark's vision, being a part of it, and keeping it going. And my career is not the same without you guys. So
thanks, Dano.
Thank you, both of you.
Thanks, Dano. All right. It was funny. I said earlier that my youngest son, AJ, it was his first chance to be in an expo and to see everything that this bass fishing world is about, from a tackle standpoint, from a promotion standpoint, what the biggest event in the game is from an outdoor perspective. And it was neat to see somebody's perspective as we drove home, and some of the questions that he asked and some of the things that really captured his attention. It was a very cool father-son kind of drive home. And there was a lot of reminiscing. There were a lot of stories being told. And one of the stories that we did talk about just for a little bit was, Dana, we talked about Clear Lake. And it was funny because during the show on Saturday, Matt said something about, Mark still yells at me. And
someone asked if you yelled at me. I didn't just bring that up out of nowhere. Someone asked if you still get on my case. So I just answered honestly.
And what's funny is the memories of where the passion really came out in all three of us. There were all good reasons why we did what we did and why we said what we said. But to be able to see you continue doing what you're doing, Dano, and obviously what Matt's doing with the show, and to have AJ, my son, kind of get a glimpse of and I'm going to say it, and he might get mad at me, but the revitalization of Frank Scalish's career due to his involvement in Dave 4 and everything that he's been able to do from an education standpoint for our product. It blows me away, and it's a lot of pride, and I'm very proud of what you continue to do, Dano, and obviously what Matt does with the continuation of what we started many, many, many years ago, and with the continued support of people like Scott, and understanding how important this aspect of this game is now and even 20 years from now. That's why, what do I always say, Matt? You always got to stay ahead. You always got to be thinking about what's next. You always have to stay that one step ahead of the competition and give the fans what they want. And we've been able to do that for a number of years. And it was kind of a special moment to have AJ there during the expo and the time that we spent together. So last thing I'm going to say, Dano, man, we are friends forever. And I really appreciate everything that you did for us, for me, for my business, and what you're doing now. I mean, I'm going to continue following, and I wish you nothing but the best. Obviously, Matt will hopefully have me on the show every now and then, maybe, a couple of times a year, and go from there. The last thing I'm going to say, and I know, Matt, you're going to say it's a shameless plug or whatever, but during the moving process, and we moved from the house that we had been at for 14, 15 years. Now we downsized, but I still have a really cool building behind the house. But during the moving process, I actually came across 2 Lowrance units that I didn't know that I had. And they're brand new, still in the box. I think they're like 12-inch
HDS.
Are you going to really try to sell those on the show?
Huh?
Are you really going to try to sell these on the show right now?
Well, no. Here's what I'm going to do. If anybody's interested,
well, there's always a catch.
If anybody's interested in those 2 graphs at a drastically reduced price, what I'm going to do, the money.
It's
listen,
unbelievable, especially with Scott from the Bass Tank on the show.
Dude, listen to me. This money is going to go to a needed cause.
Your bowling team?
Because we want to make a trip,
I called
to Pennsylvania. to Pennsylvania. Okay. I've already raised 10 grand. I just need a few more dollars. Now, come on, man. Look at me. If I didn't try to make things better for my team, that wouldn't be me.
Mark, you want to say that on the show also? You should have no problem paying for it with the rake you take off of the merch every drop.
So here, all right. Mark at bassone.com. It still works.
Oh, my gosh.
All right.
I feel like I've been very fair with you over the last 30 minutes here.
To help me out. All right. In fact, if you're in Oklahoma or surrounding areas, Scott will put them on for you.
You've been on so long. So Sean, who I met for the first time, great dude, great to meet him. He remembers you've been trying to sell these units for a solid 2 years.
I have been. All right.
Can I jump in here real quick? Yeah. Hey, Mark, maybe you should let me sell the electronics and you keep doing the radio and everything else. You're much better at that than I am. Let me handle the electronic sales. Is that fair?
I'm not that good. I'm honest. You're dead on. I don't even know what they are. I know they're pretty good, and I know they're brand new in the box.
At the risk of losing the Bass Tank as a valued sponsor of
That's
BTL,
not gonna happen.
At the risk of that, do you even know what the model number may or may not be on those things? Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about if it advertises side imaging on it, we may be a few generations past prime selling.
No. It's got, both of them have live target.
Well, the units. Yeah, that's not.
Whatever it is. I don't know.
Do you know, are they lives? Are they?
They're lives. They are lives.
Are you sure about that? Like HD,
yes.
It says HDS Live. What's the previous generation then would have been, Scott? What's right before Live would have been
it would be carbons.
Yeah, they're not carbons.
They're not carbons.
Hey, Mark, let me help you out.
Okay.
After this, you and I will get together and we'll figure out what they are. I might be interested in buying them because I do sell these every day, right? I have people interested in wanting to buy certain units. So maybe I can help you out. This will be mutual, and we can keep this going. How about that,
Scott? You're awesome, man. Awesome.
Awesome. All right, I will get a call about this, and I say this all with love and respect, Mark. But if you've been following SNU bowling, the best, most productive and winning season of any expansion college in the history of collegiate bowling in how many decades, Mark?
2004. So it's been 20 years.
It's been 20 years since there was a program that came in year run and had a year like Mark Jeffries and the SNU bowling team did. You got the program history's first win this year.
Yeah.
The team made regionals. They were ranked nationally, reached a rank of number 14, correct?
Highest was 12.
Highest rank was 12 out of over 500 teams.
Yeah, I think there's 700 schools nationwide.
Out of 700 schools, made regionals and narrowly missed going to nationals. So congratulations. And I don't think anyone expected anything less. When you go all in on something, whether it's BTL or bowling or selling electronics units, you go in with gusto and vigor. So congratulations on a great season, and best of luck on the recruiting trail this year.
Right, I have a recruit from Iowa coming in today, 11:30, and Dano, we'll talk sometime this week, man.
Absolutely, and Matt, your description of him could have been, he's one of a kind.
He is one of a kind. All right, Mark, I'm going to drop you right now. Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. See ya.
All right. See ya.
Dano, thanks for all you've done this week. Thanks for letting us use the Advanced Angler raw footage. Check out Dano at advancedangler.com. Also behind the scenes on all the tournament trails. Does a lot for the anglers and their sponsors behind the scenes that you'll never know about. Him and his wife, Christine Kraut, travel the country in the Advanced Angler Mobile. If you happen to see them, flag them down, stop them, say hi to Dano. Thanks for the support, Dano. Much appreciated.
Not a problem. We'll sell you a couple of graphs if you stop us.
All right. See ya. All right. Time wise, are you good? Because I would still like to talk a little bit about this, but I also
I've got probably 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, screw it. We're not going to take a break. We're going to go straight through to it.
If you need to take a break, do what you need to do.
No, we can do it afterwards. That's the beauty of the show.
All right. Awesome.
All right, Scott. a little bit of a hard intro there. Thanks. You did a fantastic job coming in on that.
Hey,
but
no problem.
Let's talk about Justin Hamner winning the Bassmaster Classic. And we're going to do a full show about this. I just wanted to get you on just to get a taste of it. So there's no need to like really dive into this, because this I think is a cool story to absolutely dive into. But as a sponsor at the Bassmaster Classic, initial impressions of what it means, literally less than 12 hours. It's 12 hours after the win.
Yeah.
To have an angler with your branding on it lifting the Bassmaster Classic trophy.
You know, I don't know that it's fully set in yet. I mean, that's the hard part, is still trying to take in the gravity of this. It's awesome. I mean, it is awesome. That's the only word I can use to describe it right now. Maybe I'll have something more eloquent to say later, but heck yeah, you know, and it's just, it couldn't happen to a better guy. Mm-hmm. And then to have it be a guy that we've got a relationship with. You know, we're sponsored, of course, and some people say, oh, you know, he's paid to do that. Well, yeah, he does, but that's so he can go, that's his job, you know, but it's more than that. It's a relationship. It's always about relationships for me. And so right now I'm still trying to process everything. It's just, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, you saw, look, I can't wipe this grin off my face. You know, I'm exhausted as a lot of people are right now. But I can't stop smiling. And you saw the picture that you saw. That mm-hmm. wasn't made up. That was genuine. I mean, I was just a kid in a candy store, just absolutely just, I mean, who gets to do that? I mean, think about that. How many people really get to do that? And I got to do that personally. On a personal note, I mean, yeah, that's selfish. Full disclosure, that's selfish. But it was awesome. I'm not going to shy away from that. But then as a company, knowing that your guy just is at the pinnacle of our sport, it's kind of a culmination of, this is what we're trying to do. You know, we're trying to show guys that if he trusts us, why wouldn't you trust us? Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. And it's just again, I don't have any eloquent things to say right now because my brain's not braining. But it's overwhelming. It's awesome. I'm super excited. And we'll get into it more later, I guess, you know, because that's.
Yeah, it really is. You know, you had power brakes in your booth. Oh, there goes Scott. That means someone called Scott. But one of the cool things was he had power brakes on his boat, and power brakes is what I have on my boat. It's the trolling motors that allows you to go backwards and forwards. And I was talking with the owner. Here we go. We're back. I was talking with the owner of Power Brakes, and he's like, man, I'm not, this bass thing isn't my deal. It's the crappie thing. And then to see those things, I mean, on the Bassmaster Classic stage on the number one boat, there's a lot of kind of cool stories there. So here's what I want to do, Scott, in the next week or 2 weeks or whenever it gets set up. We will have Justin Hamner on BTL as soon as his schedule allows. I don't know exactly when that will be, but I would love to get his first full interview on BTL where he sits down, and then I want you to come on. You know exactly what is on his boat, why it was put there, how it was put there. You are the Bass Tank. We're going to run through in depth exactly what Hamner had on his setup. He gave a great shout out to you and the guys at the Bass Tank for the install and how everything had to be perfect to do what he was doing and to have confidence and success with it. So that's kind of coming down the pipe for BTL in the coming with the Bass Tank. And it is fortuitous for BTL because of the relationship. And Hamner knows a bunch of the guys. I know he's buddies with the guys from Serious Angler and Mercer and everybody that's out there. But it is cool to have that type of relationship with someone who was as valid, and we like spending time around before he was a Bassmaster Classic champ, and he will be the exact same after the Bassmaster Classic champ. So he will be on BTL at some point in the near future, and we are going to dive into this with a fine-tooth comb, both on the water, both off the water, electronics, the whole 9 yards. So, dude, you are exceptionally proud. And the other thing, I don't think people realize, you kind of get a glimpse of this bass fishing world. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. Yeah. And it's no secret that over the past 5 years, there's been a lot of changes at the Bass Tank. who's there, who isn't there, how things are done. I'm proud to say that the Bass Tank has been a proud supporter of BTL through that entire time, just like BTL has stayed with the Bass Tank through that amount of time as well. And Scott has put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There's been ups and downs in that process. But yesterday had to be a lot of validation for a lot of hours of frustration and hard work where you really didn't know how things were going to shake out. And let's be honest, you still don't know how things are going to shake out. You're busting your ass doing it the best you can one day at a time.
Yeah.
But this is just, like I said, I think I texted you, I said, like, it's not like a pinhole of light at the end of the tunnel. Like it was like, bam, there's the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say about that. That's a long, drawn out way of saying congratulations, Scott.
Yeah.
Because you also earned congratulations in part of this as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And it is, and this industry is just, there's been a lot of changes just overall, in the industry, and even at a broad scale, take the whole pandemic, and I don't want to get into that, but it was so up, and it's just a roller coaster. And if you're going to ride this ride, hold on, and so you're right. It is absolutely just, it was when you said, hey, it's the light. I'm like, yeah, it finally hit me. It's a spotlight, it was like, boom, here it is. And so, and again, I'm kind of drinking from a fire hose at the very moment, but, we're just going to go, and we're going to go back to work. My guys are in here today grinding away because hey, if I would have scripted this out, if someone would have said, Scott, write this down how you want this to go, I don't know that I could have written any better. The show, we had a really good show, just in itself, the expo, because we had a booth there as well. And then, then our guy goes and wins the thing. I mean, it couldn't have been better. Oh, by the way, it just so happened to be in our hometown. So it's just, is this what fairy tales are made of? Is that, can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. But
yeah, no, you're absolutely allowed. I just looked at it, yesterday before the weigh-in, Hamner had around 8,000 Instagram followers. He's up I took a screenshot of it, and he's up over 13,000 already. Yeah. 5,000 new followers, and that number is just going to continue to skyrocket.
That's right. Not just for us, as one of his supporters, as one of his team members, but for him, that young man's life has changed, forever. I told him last night, I said, if you never catch another fish in your life, you are a Bassmaster Classic champion, and no one can ever take that away from you. And that is, what was it? This is number 55. Is that right?
54.
54. So there are only 54 people who can say that. That in itself just really kind of puts it. And again, I was looking at him, and it was just kind of that he had that blank look of, I don't know what's happening. And I think it's going to take a bit for it to even begin to set in. He probably slept with that trophy last night.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to let you go. I know you said you had about 10 minutes. If you guys want more information, check out thebasstank.com. I feel like your webmaster website person is going to be very busy.
We've seen an uptick. We've definitely had some traffic. I can't stop working. It's just who I am. I'm not going to stop working. And, people are checking it out. So it's good for us, for sure. And, we're excited, we're very excited because, I will say this, shameless plug here, but it's something I'm proud of. 2 of the last 3 champions trusted me with their boats, trusted the Bass Tank to rig their boats. And that, I think that says something. I really do, because we're doing the same thing. And I want everyone to understand this. When we rig a boat, we don't do anything extra for the pros, like extra special, take extra care for them than we do our everyday customer. I look at them as the same. I really, truly believe that, because you catching a fish as an everyday person is the same to me as them going and doing. Yes, this is amazing. And yes, all the accolades, but this is about, at the end of the day, the fans, the people out there catching fish that support us and allow us to do what we do, yourself included. So, so I'm really proud of just what we've built here. And now I'm going to go drink from the fire hose a little bit more.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Congratulations. Give me a shout when things settle down, and we'll let everybody know what to expect on BTL.
Sounds good. Thanks, Matt.
All right. See ya. All right. That is owner of the Bass Tank, Scott Palmer. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, final thoughts about the 2024 Bassmaster Classic, the 54th edition that just took place at the BOK Center, won by Justin Hamner with 58 pounds of bass. We'll be back right after this.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water acres. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Brake Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Brake Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Yes.
Fishing isn't just a hobby, it's an obsession. Whether it's blazing hot or bitterly cold, bright sunshine, raining, or even snowing, someplace, somewhere, there's a fish that's ready to bite. And as the angler, you need baits that will catch the fish anywhere, anytime, no matter the conditions. From throwing topwaters to cranking the depths, know the baits to throw. Choose Spro.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, wrapping things up here, 2024 Bassmaster Classic Recap Show. Big shout out to Scott Palmer from the Bass Tank. Also, Dan O'Sullivan from Advanced Angler and Mark Jeffries, I guess from SNU Bowling now, for jumping on and talking all things classic. We'll have a bunch more kind of analysis. Also want a big shout out for Pete Robbins. The last 2 of the last 3 nights he has gotten on at 10 o'clock, literally without eating, and taken part in the recap show, which I really appreciate. So just a couple final thoughts from the classic. The recap day, some of the things that I liked, some of the things that I thought could have been better. We'll start, with media day. They did media day at Bass Pro Shops in Broken Arrow, which is a little bit different. They've done it downtown before. They've had it like in arenas. They've had it. So I wasn't able to get to the actual like presentation at media day, but I was at media day. They had all the boats in the parking lot there. I thought it was incredibly easy to get in, to get out. There was parking. The anglers were accessible. The way that it was set up was well. I thought this was a very media and fan-friendly media day. The way that they had everything there. Also, if you're an angler and you're trying to get, I know when they've had them downtown before and in buildings, it's been a major pain in the ass for these guys to get their rigs either from the lake or from the hotel where they're staying downtown, and all this traffic, get it backed in there, get it set up. This was easy. They just roll in, they back the boat, and they get the job done. So kudos to Bass for what I thought was a very well-run media day. The Classic Expo. So there have been Classic Expos that I've been to in the past that are way more, and I'm going to use air quotes, crowded, as far as you cannot move around. If you want to look at something at a booth, like the river of people just pushes you past the booth. I thought that the way the Classic Expo was laid out, and this was their third shot at it, so they kind of knew how things worked. There's one little room upstairs that it was kind of hard to get upstairs. I didn't get up there till the third day, which is where the Drop Shot Jock booth was. So I reconnected with them. We got some giveaways coming in the future with that. It's really cool. If you have one of the rods that doesn't have a Drop Shot keeper on it, this solves that problem. Super inexpensive, kind of a super genius product. So looking forward to working with them in the future. But other than that, there was always a good flow to the traffic. It was easy to find where you wanted to be. There were different boat brands in different rooms. There was plenty of room to maneuver. There weren't, in my opinion, any pinch points like there have been in past classics where you end up waiting to get through a line to get into a room. I talked to a lot of different vendors there. At best, it was break even, but they were very optimistic at the publicity and the relationships that they had made there. I know, Lucky Lure Tackle, a number of the other people that were selling there were all extremely happy with how their classic venue went. There were some cool products that were available there too. If we're talking jerk baits, there was a cool new not a Lucky Craft, Mega Bass 110, like kind of a classic exclusive. The Spro booth had some of the Chad Shads, some of the glide baits in exclusive colors. There were some Little Johns that were in exclusive Grand Lake colors. Missile had a Sooner Secret color that was at Tulsa Tackle. I ended up getting 4 bags of those. Here, I'll show you this color. This color is cool. It's like a bold bluegill, and like that was a classic exclusive color. So I picked up some of that. Yeah, there were some cool swim baits there. Talked to Matt Heron's kid over at the Missile booth too. He was selling I think it's the glide baits that he's been working on. I thought the expo was an 8 out of 10. The BTL listeners that came and showed up for Frank, we gave away 600 of the color number 7 spooks, all of which Frank Scalish signed. The listeners, the viewers that came out, like I said, I've got a couple new additions. I have some handmade balsa crankbaits, the Apple, a lot of great listeners and viewers with stories, and enjoyed meeting and talking with every single one of those. The weigh-in itself on the final day, we've kind of covered that. That is what it is. It is still the Bassmaster Classic weigh-in, and when they bring the Super 6 out, it still gives you goosebumps. And I think we've covered the fishing pretty well. With what Pete Robbins and Dan O'Sullivan had to say. I am surprised that no one really made a run at it on the final day. None of the favorites, like it was a very interesting, like, top 10. Justin Hamner, Adam Rasmussen, Cody Huff, Jay Shakurit, Lee Livesey, Corey Johnson, Hank Cherry, Kyle Patrick, Shane LaHue, and Taku Itu. Like I said last night, 3 different countries represented in the top 10 of the 2024 Bassmaster Classic in Japan, Canada, and the United States. You had a young 30-something-year-old win it. You had an angler who qualified through the opens in Adam Rasmussen win it. Rick Clunn's protege, Cody Huff, old school guy in Lee Livesey, 2-time classic champ, and Hank Cherry, Elite Series rookie in Kyle Patrick. That's about as diverse as a top 10 as you could ask for. And a lot of quality 2 3/4 to 3 pound tournament size bass. That's what Grand is known for. Those 4 and 5s just didn't show up. Rob was saying Hamner was a favorite. if you listen to the Open Pros Pick'em show, I think Hamner A said he was going to win on a couple of different podcasts, and B, the way it was setting up, like Jason Christie said, 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after, slugfest either way, either super pre-spawn or spawn. This kind of fell right in the middle. You want to talk about roaming fish or fish loosely relating to brush, to things like that. That's a jerkbait bite, especially with the start Hamner's had to his year. And if you follow the tournament trail, it's no secret that that's pretty much all he throws is a jerkbait. I'd be comfortable to say that going into it, Justin Hamner was one of the top 10 to watch in this Bassmaster Classic. So I like the fishing. The 90 miles between Grand and the BOK Center is always an issue. That's why I had Gene Gilliland in studio prior to the Classic, conservation director for bass. I talked to him on day 3, and he said that there were no bass that crosses scales deaded. He said with confidence, he thinks all but one. And even though it was alive when it weighed in, he goes back to Grand. They have the oxygenated tank trucks that go out that distribute them back through Grand, through the Oklahoma Department of Conservation and Wildlife. He said one fish that was alive when they brought it back, but he didn't think they'd make that it would make it. If you also saw the fish when they hold it up, sometimes you can look at the health of the fish. Those fish looked healthy. Their fins were flipping. There wasn't a lot of red around them. There were no glassy eyes. I feel confident that in the next years, there are fish that were weighed in on the Classic stage over the last 3 days that will be caught again. 100%. I think that especially with the cooler water temperatures in the 50s, the cooler air temperatures, and as on top of things as Gene, the bass staff, and the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation are, that the 90 miles between Grand Lake and the BOK Center was not an issue. Plus, all these anglers take really good care of their fish. I mean, I crawled around the bass cats at the expo, and you're talking, the 60-gallon live wells. There's a bunch of stuff that a bunch of technology with oxygenators that are keeping these fish healthy, alive. Overall execution, I'm a little biased being from Oklahoma, wanting to see Grand show out, wanting to see the fishermen from Oklahoma. I also give an A+ to the anglers who were on the water watching the Bassmaster Classic, following Christie, following Palmer, following Hamner, their favorite anglers on the final day. Every single angler that I talked to said, dude, they really, really know how to watch bass fishing here. There's a lot of anglers that said it on stage. The on the water viewers followed the quote proper way. They stayed off the guys. They didn't fish behind them. They didn't graph what they were on after they had left. Very respectful and a minimal impact on the outcome of the tournament, which is something that can't be said for all of the past Classics and competitors. Now, there were probably less on the water because of the wind on the final day, but, especially the first 2 days, an A+ for those of the listeners who brought their boats down. I talked to listeners who brought boats down from Chicago. I talked to listeners who brought boats from other parts of the country. A lot of the Oklahoma guys who I know were out there. My boy Kevin Ledoux was out there as Brandon Polinick's camera boat driver, and said that it was a very easy situation with the way the spectators were. So that's an A+. Overall for this Classic, I give it an A. The electric feel in the stadium probably wasn't there, but that I think is also a result of the weights and how there was almost a 6-pound lead going into the final day. I give Dave Mercer an A for what he does and the way that he hyped everything up on the final day. Had a little bit of a mic issue at the beginning, turned that into a really cool moment with the heartbeat of bass fishing. As a whole, easy to get in, easy to get out, easy to park. I watched a lot of the live content, both on Bassmaster.com and FS1 while I was on my way to the expo, both days since I stayed at home. I kind of had it down in the dash. I was more listening to it than watching it, but I thought that was well done with what Davey and Zona and Tommy Sanders did. Listen, Roddy Moore has also been thrust into a lot. Instead of it just, doing the screen of knowledge and that, they kind of turned him into the hype man this year. I will say on the final day, probably if I had to give anything an F out of the entire Classic, it would be Ronnie Moore's attempt to throw gift cards into the stands. I don't know how you can throw a gift card towards an expecting fan and it literally ends up behind you on the Classic floor. It was probably the most disappointing moment in classic history since Jim Bitter watching Ronnie Moore trying to throw hats and gift cards into the stands. I'm just joking. I'm giving him a hard time, but it was pretty funny to watch. So I think that covers it just about all. I'm really not sure what we're doing for the rest of the week. Scott's going to kind of get with me on when we can get Justin Hamner in. I'll wrap this up kind of where I started with the BTL listeners to support as much BTL hats, shirts as I saw at the expo. As many listeners as waited at the booth to talk to me, to talk about bass fishing, to talk to Frank Jr. Cannot thank you enough for the support that you guys show the Bass Zone. And there will be 5 autographed Day 7s from Uncle Frank. If you weren't able to get to the expo this week, I said, man, grab a couple of those, hang them back so we can give those out to the listeners. So thanks for everybody. It was a great experience. And I'm actually headed to the water now. Gretchen and Katie from St. Jude attended their first classic to make contacts for the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic that takes place the first week of May in Wabasha, Minnesota. You can still register for that. Just Google Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic and see all the details there in the highlight videos. But neither of them, I don't know if Katie has. I know Gretchen, I think it's like her birthday weekend. She's the one who's kind of in charge of that entire tournament, runs things, has never caught a fish before. So I got to get the boat cleaned out. I got to put a new hitch on the truck, and then we're headed to the lake, and we're going to see if we can't get Gretchen her first bass because she raises millions of dollars through the St. Jude tournament, but has never actually caught a fish. It's also blowing 20 and it's pretty cold, so we got a tall task at hand, but maybe we can get one in the boat. All right, big shout out. Thanks, Dano. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Scott Palmer, Pete Robbins, everyone that I met at the expo. That's all we got for today. Long show today. Over 400 live for the majority of the time. I guess we'll be back tomorrow. I have no idea who or what we're going to talk about, but we'll be back tomorrow. That's all we got. See ya.